Please welcome producer Johnny Langenheim. So you guys know the drill. You ask the questions, Johnny will answer them, and as always, you can also tweet your questions at hashtag SBFF. Do we have any questions? Yes, ma'am. The question is, when was it filmed? Oh, where was it filmed?
It was filmed in the Lofoten Islands in northwestern Norway. So it's about 50 miles inside the Arctic Circle. And actually, do you know the film Downsizing? I'm sure some of you will have seen that. That was also shot in the Lofoten Islands, just before ours, as it happens.
And when was it filmed as well? What time of year?
It was filmed at the end of 2016, I want to say. So it's had quite a long gestation to get to this stage.
What time of year was it?
It was in the summer. So because it's up in the Arctic, it was kind of midnight sun period. So the sun never really goes down. It kind of just dips below the horizon and then comes up again.
Yes, ma'am. Right, so the question is, what was the tradition that they were expressing in this film?
So, I mean, you could call it a trial by ordeal, although in fact the ordeal is for Johanna, who has to decide whether or not to save this intruder's life. So the custom, to put it kind of baldly, is that if someone is killed, the closest relation to that person decides the fate of the perpetrator, and they do that using this rope with the 7 knots. And so that decision is distilled in those 7 seconds. And she, obviously, you know, is a young girl who has to make a very difficult decision. Yeah, she forgave him, yeah.
More questions? Yes, sir. The question is, what was the nature of the transgression? Well-worded question, by the way.
Something I noticed, actually, I mean, one, you know, this, obviously the film's in Norwegian and a Norwegian dialect, but something I noticed is that the subtitles perhaps could have been a bit bigger. But the nature of the transgression was that the man in the boat that you saw on the beach was Johanna's father, and he had been killed in a confrontation with an oil rig worker. And these kind of conflicts, I mean, obviously this is a drama, but these kind of conflicts between people that are coming into remote areas for resource extraction and local communities, they're kind of increasingly common in the Arctic region.
Another question? Am I seeing a hand or am I? Yes, right there, sir. Right, so the question is about the actors in the movie, which ones were professional actors and which one were local residents.
So Dagny, who played Johanna, she's from Bergen in Norway. She's a professional actor. The Russian guy is actually English, and he's actually been in Game of Thrones, and he's done a fair bit of TV work in the UK. Dagny's just been in Vikings, and the rest of them were, yeah, they were extras. The fixer that we worked with very fortunately turned out to be a screenwriter in his own right, and kind of a bit of a mover in the Norwegian film industry. So thanks to him, we were able to kind of recruit a lot of people to help us out, to make it all happen. So, for example, the guy in the boat, the dead guy, he built that boat himself, played the dead guy, and burned it afterwards. So kind of that was the circle.
Yes, ma'am. Right, the question is about the aerial shots of the boat and then the burning boat and how that was achieved.
Yeah, I mean, the whole boat scene was just shot in one day. Obviously, it was shot with a drone, put a grade on it. And as I say, Uncle Hans, as he was fondly known, he took care of all the burning. So he went out in another rowing boat and set it alight. And he was, I mean, he'd built the boat himself, and he wasn't like a boat builder. And he didn't know if it was going to float, so it floated and it burned sort of reasonably well as well. And there was a little bit of flame enhancement there as well, just to give it a boost.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, we have two questions. Let's take this one first, the lady in white. Yes. So the question is, how did you find out about this tradition, if this is indeed a real tradition, and what interested you in producing this movie?
Okay, so the director unfortunately couldn't be here today. He was a photographer, or still is a photographer, and we started working together as a journalist photographer team. And while we were in Papua New Guinea, he heard this story about a tradition of this kind of ilk, and then kind of developed it further from there. So my interest in it, I've worked with James for many years, originally telling stories, kind of feature stories and photo essays for kind of major media. We then went into documentary, and then wanted to, yeah, I mean, you want to tell your own stories, so it was just a kind of natural progression into film.
And there was another question up there, yes? I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Where will this film go?
I guess it depends where people want it to go. I'm pretty happy it came here. Yeah, I mean, it's been really nice to see it on the big screen, and you know, we're actually at another festival next month, so it's kind of gathering a little bit of momentum, and then there are kind of various platforms that we're talking to, but I mean, everyone kind of knows what the short film game is about, so we have a feature in development and hoping to get that off of the ground in the next couple of years. So you probably see it in about 5 years.
So we have time for one more question. Yes, the lady way in the back. Make it a good question. Which scene? Okay. So the question is about the underwater scene, how that was shot, where that was shot.
Yeah, so now I have to kind of explode the suspension of disbelief, but it was shot in Malta. So we didn't subject our actor to the freezing Arctic waters. We took him for a little jaunt in Malta. Yeah, so that's how that was shot.
What about when he reaches the hand out? Is that in Malta still?
No, okay, so he was in the water. He was in the water in the Arctic, but he didn't have to go all the way down, tied up, and you know, like trussed up like a turkey. But yeah, so he went in for a little while, but we had like a suit to put him in afterwards, and all of this kind of thing.
That was a good last question. Thank you, Johnny Langenheim.
Thanks very much.